football or hockey or whatever it might be. You know, they do it correctly 4 or 4 to 5 times, and then 3 times they get it wrong again. But each time that they practice that perfect mechanics, all of a sudden those neural pathways get set, the lines of communication between the brain and the feet become stronger and stronger, then all of a sudden it's set, and then they don't deviate from that perfect mechanics, and that's what we want to set up in them. And that's why if we can get them at 10 and 12 and 13 years of age, we can set that up while the nervous system and the muscular system are still forming their relationship in terms of physiological development, and set them up for life. The goal of acceleration, this is Franz Bosch, the track and field coach and speed coach in Holland, to sustain a balanced posture. And this is one of the big things that we'll look at in terms of core as well, having balance while transferring force from one side of the body to the other. Optimize the direction and magnitude of force in an effort to reach maximal velocity as fast and as efficiently as possible. And we talk about 3 steps explosiveness. That's what we want to get it in, 3 steps. More simply put, I read that and I think, okay, that's just beating your opponent to the ball, okay? Or breaking away from the tackle. For our athletes, that's what that means. So foot strike. So in terms of foot strike, we're always looking at being in an acceleratory position. And an acceleratory position means that if I'm thinking about where my center of mass or where my body position is held, then if I look at the balls of my feet, and then if I look at where my heels are, my knees are going to be slightly in front of my heels, my hips are going to be slightly in front of my knees, and my shoulders are going to be slightly in front of my hips. So that's my acceleratory position. We want to be in that position in every drill that we do, whether it's an ankling drill or a wall slide drill or a step over drill. We always want to be in this nice strong acceleratory position. So we're looking at a mid to 4-foot strike. One of the things that we should be thinking about as coaches is no toes, no heels. So it should be all mid-foot placement in all of our drills. And always applying the force backward. So ripping through the ground under the pelvis to drive the pelvis forward. The fault that you'll see is athletes running on their toes. It's a really important thing for us to talk about athletes running on their toes. Some coaches still debate it with me, but when I tell them this, they kind of go, oh, yes, I didn't realize that. If you run on your toes, then what happens is that because your toe is in this position, as soon as my toe is in this position, my gastrocnemius is already contracted. If my gastrocnemius is already contracted, then I can't use it to drive me off the ground. Okay, because in the toe off position of sprinting, whether it be low acceleratory towards the ball or whether it be in top speed, it's the same thing. As soon as this toe is down, the gastrocnemius is now shortened, which means that I can't use it to drive me off the ground. So if I'm hitting here, my body has to pull back to this flat position to then be able to go into that toe off and that push forward position. So that's why in all of the literature you'll see that we need to have the foot pulled back in this dorsiflexed position. We have to rip under the pelvis, which then drives me off into the toe off position. Okay. Otherwise all I'm doing is going toe down, braking force, pushing the braking force into the hips, slowing down on every step, so being in that deceleratory position in every step, or I'm locking the toe down, planting the foot, pushing the hips forward, and then driving off, and that's a slow athlete. Yeah, so it should be that. So as soon as my foot strikes under the hips here, then I drive it into the toe off. So if I'm landing in that acceleratory position under the pelvis, it's going to push me straight away. Yeah, rather than here, braking force, plant, extra effort to push through into this position, then toe off. Yeah. By watching and then copying though, I get to see their lines of communication that they already have because a visual perception goes in, and then I get to see what needs to be rebuilt. Always need to practice them. So pull the toe back towards the shin. We're going to start in our walking ankling drill, and the whole idea for us is just to rip the foot underneath the hip. As soon as we get in line with our leg, we're going to lift the foot back up, and it's a very small circle around the ankle. from side to side. Beautiful. So now we're going to start walking the actual action through. So we just walk. And you want to hear the grass ripping backwards as the foot comes through under the hip. So remember, we're looking at a really small action. So try not to stop, but pull the foot back and underneath the hip. Remember, always in that acceleratory position. So just a little bit smaller. Beautiful. Once you've got it, jog back. And this is classic. Very talented footballer. So now what we want to do is we want to get explosive power and strength, okay? And get the really nice mechanics of foot strike. And what you'll see is that the leg's coming out as though it wants to kick a football. That's what you want to do. You know what I mean? So, and did you see the difference in the line of communication between the left and right side of the body? Okay. So then I would think that with a little bit more testing, we'd probably find a few little asymmetries and things like that. So that's when what you would do with your athlete is just pull them back. Just like you do teaching soccer drills, hockey drills, any other drill. What you do is you then go, okay, let's pull it back and let's go back to the walking. Okay, so some of you are ready to progress. So if we do one more just with the propulsion, without speed first. Okay, off we go. Let's do this. Seeing all pulling through with the hip flexors and the track athletes using glutes and hamstrings. So it's because that's what we've been trained to do, you know what I mean, from a young age. So we want to actually be pulling through. Leon, can you come and do it for me, for everyone?
Say no, just deny her once.
Have you ever done that?
No. But even my hero if I did.
Leon's technique. And relax. So it's all psoas, like it's all hip flexor. Can you see it? It's beautiful. It's just not efficient. So, so the action being just, it's just football. Do you know what I mean? It's just ingrained. It's here. And you know, if you get a 10 and 12-year-old footballer, you can train it out of them very quickly, so that then they can use all of this beautiful anterior strength for striking the ball, dribbling, and all those sorts of important skills that are important, and use the posterior chain to move them around the pitch. So then if we come back to thinking about that bucket that we saw on the slide again, then what we're doing is that we're utilising the fuel really efficiently. So it's like we've got a car that doesn't drain fuel, do you know what I mean? Like we're using anterior chain for, you know, fine motor, kicking, dribbling, striking, you know, really pummeling the ball down the end of the field if we need to. And we're using the posterior chain to run and sprint and move us around the paddock. So that's what we want to do with our footballers. A little bit hard, it's gonna get there. Yeah.